Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After we run you through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. Lots to talk about in today's episode. A lot of speculation, a lot of interesting maybe possibilities that could happen in the near future that we have to talk about today. And I'm excited to get into it. So let's get to this first news story, which comes from Pro Football Rumors. And this really, obviously you guys know where this ended up going, but we're just going to glaze through it really quickly. The Dolphins had a meeting with safety Malik Hooker, formerly of the Indianapolis Colts. Again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. It didn't work out, obviously, a former first-round safety. I remember people like Daniel Jeremiah comparing him to Ed Reed, and that's not a joke. I mean, someone can go back and find that. I think he said he had like the ball skills of Ed Reed. And honestly, his interception production wasn't terrible. But he's not the most versatile guy. He's kind of stiff. He cannot play. He's not the greatest in man coverage. He's more of a zone safety, like in a Seattle scheme. So he wouldn't really fit the scheme, in my opinion. And what the Dolphins ended up doing anyway, I think, was ultimately the right move. Because in this, like I've said a million times, in this scheme, your safeties have to play a lot of man coverage. And he would not be, in my opinion, he would not be able to do that. At least, not even at the level that Bobby could have done it, or did do it. And which leads us into the next news story, which comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins to cut Bobby McCain. Obviously, they've already released him officially of the time you're recording this episode. And this comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins have informed safety Bobby McCain that he'll be released today. By cutting the team captain, the Dolphins will nix the final 2 years of his $27 million deal. McCain was set to count for $7 million against the cap. The Dolphins will be left with just $1 million in dead cap while saving over $5 million by cutting the veteran safety, who, by the way, was formerly a fifth-round pick, I think, out of Memphis, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that was the first year I was doing the show. It was a year later, 2016, I think, is when we started doing this show. Bobby's had his ups and his downs, mostly downs. His best football that he ever played in Miami was in slot corner. And then I don't understand why they ever switched him from that, because he is a very good slot corner. He's a good tackler at that position. It's not too physically daunting for him because of his size. He's not got the wear and tear as much as he would having to play safety. And obviously that was a big issue because he never really had injuries before that. I think maybe he had a hip issue at some point when he played slot corner, but I don't think so. I think all that stuff happened after he moved his position. And if you guys remember, he started his career playing outside corner. And again, he was a fifth rounder. It's weird that we treated him like he was a high value pick at some points because we moved him around so much. And it's kind of unfortunate because, like I said, his best football was at slot corner. He would have been a really good slot corner in this scheme. And obviously, it might have actually happened if the Dolphins were able to sign Devin McCourty, I think two off seasons ago, if they were able to get that deal done. Maybe he would have moved to slot corner, but which ultimately would have been better. He would have been better than Nick Needham at that position. He's a good athlete. He's definitely a better athlete than Nick Needham. He's physical. He's good in the run game. So it's unfortunate that we never really got to see that. But like I said, his best football was at slot corner. And, his safety play, especially as the first year playing safety, was not very good. The second year was a lot better. But it still wasn't the greatest. Especially on some of the, I don't know, I just think it could have been better. Anytime he was matched up in man coverage when we blitzed, though, he did a fantastic job. I think that's another thing that's underrated about what he did do for that defense. And I know some people bring up the communication, get people set and stuff, which he did a terrible job at in the past. You could put up like a 20-minute reel. Not 20 minutes is an exaggeration, but a very long reel of him giving up busted coverages because Bobby was not very good at that. And so I don't know. I think the communication thing, maybe he definitely got better as it went along, but he's definitely had his moments. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. We're behind myself. I got trying to make my point here. The point is that the underrated, I think the best part of his game at safety was allowing us to be more aggressive with some of those blitz packages and some of those zero-man coverages, because he can match up with a lot of those guys inside and do a very good job. Or even on the outside, especially if you're sending pressure. And he always did a pretty awesome job. I mean, out of all the zero-man coverages we played, he never gave up anything. Like, X has given up more big plays than him when we run that defense, which is crazy. So I think in that department, it's going to be kind of a tough thing to replace because, again, you as a safety in this defense, you have to match up with a lot of different things. You have to play off the ball. Sometimes you're in the box. Sometimes you have to match up one-on-one with a tight end or a slot corner, or maybe even an outside corner at sometimes, or an outside receiver or a slot receiver. I think I said slot corner. You have to be all over the field. That's why Brandon Jones, when we drafted him, and that's what he did in college, he played slot corner, safety, strong safety. He did all of that stuff. He would sometimes match up man-to-man against your best weapon in college at Texas. Same thing with Holland. When he's coming out of college, he's the same type of player. And that's what you need in this scheme. So I think the Dolphins did a good job of replacing that, and I think we'll see the fruits of the I don't know what I was trying to do. I was trying to reach for an analogy there. I couldn't find it. We just got to move on. Okay, this next news story, which is an interesting one. The Dolphins have signed Mel Blount's son. And I don't know how much time we're going to actually spend on this, but he plays tight end. He played basketball in college. He's 6'7", 225 pounds. He's going into a very crowded tight end room. It's interesting, though. Obviously, if we've all, as football fans, we've heard this millions of times, but you remember he used to play basketball in college. You heard that all the time with tight ends. I mean, Tony Gonzalez is the best example of that. Antonio Gates is a great example of that. I think Julius Peppers played defensive end, but he played college in North Carolina, or college basketball in North Carolina. So there's a great history of people transitioning from basketball to football, especially when you're 6'7" and 225 pounds, and your dad is Mel Blount. So those are all very positive things. Mel Blount must have had him at an older age, because Mel Blount has got to be, he's up there for sure. All right, moving on from that, we'll see if he can make the team. I mean, that's a very crowded tight end room. Again, there's a great history of tight ends or basketball players transitioning to football, especially at certain positions, and that's definitely one of them. And we'll see if he can make the team. But again, very crowded room. I mean, Hunter Long and Gesicki, I expect to be the top two guys in terms of receiving threats. This next news story, which is the best, probably I don't know. There's a lot of here. This next news story, really good news. The Dolphins have signed Jason McCourty. Not the McCourty that they wanted, but they still got one. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Jason McCourty is switching AFC East squads. The veteran cornerback is signing with the Dolphins. He's 33 years old. I think this is his 13th year in the league. His role reportedly will be servicing as depth to Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, and he will be trying to compete for the starting free safety position. So those are his, I guess, expected roles. I expect him to start at free safety. In my opinion, I think he will start. We hear all the time about communication and how that's such a big deal in this defense, and it's a huge deal. And Jason obviously has a huge amount of knowledge of this defense. He obviously comes from New England and spent a good amount of time there. His twin brother is a fantastic free safety in this same scheme. So hopefully they're the same type of body too. And so hopefully he can transition to that position pretty seamlessly and give us a lot of good football there. And I think he can. Again, great fit. Can match up with outside receivers, slot receivers, tight ends. He's a great fit in that zero-man coverage. He did that a lot in New England too. He's a great athlete, just like his brother. He matched up in Brandon Cooks one-on-one in the Super Bowl. He's done a lot of things that we ask our defensive players to do, and he's going to excel at that at free safety because he's not going to have to match up with the best athlete all the time. in some of those blitz packages. And he's not gonna give us. We're not gonna have to play major catch up because Holland or Brandon is gonna start at free safety. We're not gonna have to play catch up because he's been in this defense for so long and he's seen a lot of NFL football. So we're not gonna be behind the curve, and this defense can just go. And I think that's a huge, and I think that's why they wanted Millie Cooker. They brought him in. They bring Jason Ahoud, who's a much better scheme fit. And I think that's why they were really looking for that. So it's a great signing by the Dolphins. One of my favorites. Great, you have to have good veteran players on your team, and he's one of them. And again, they lost. And whatever you want to say about the whole thing, where you lose a lot of guys, like even Bobby, who, to be honest with you, Bobby never really did anything in terms of winning anything in Miami. I mean, he had 2 10-game win seasons, which not many Dolphins can say that have run through here in recent years. But you do need someone who's been there, I think, and who's a veteran on a very young team. And we lost Kyle Van Noy. We still have Ogba on this team, who's seen a lot of winning football. Now we have McCourty. So not only is he a great scheme fit, and he's going to give us, like I said, he's going to be really good at that position. And he's a good veteran player. But he also has that, obviously, added bonus to come in and not only be a coach on the field, but also give us the team a lot of experience. Sorry, guys, my nose is stuffy. I think that's it for... Okay, this is the last news story. I don't think any of you guys really care about this, but this comes from Pro Football Rumors. This is the most interesting thing here. Dolphins will only give workout bonuses to players that show up. Some teams, like the Packers, have announced their initial phase of offseason workouts would remain virtual, and that players with workout bonuses could receive them by logging their attendance at the virtual sessions. The Dolphins won't be one of those teams. Miami will only be giving player bonuses if you show up to the building, reports Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. That doesn't mean it's a coaching staff decision, as Jackson writes that one agent told him Dolphins head coach Brian Flores has, quote, has been respectful of the players' position on the NFLPA issue and hasn't tried to pressure them. Jackson notes that there are, quote, nearly a dozen Dolphins players without workout bonuses who will now face a huge dilemma, obviously. The Dolphins are one of the many teams whose players issued a statement through the NFLPA to, quote, stand in solidarity with players skipping the workouts. Receivers Devontae Parker, Albert Wilson, and Jakeem Grant have workout bonuses of $100K, $75K, and $50K, respectively, on the line. So this is a very interesting conversation for a lot of different reasons, because it doesn't go well when you compare it to every walk of life on the planet. And that's the whole thing about sports, is it's not the same thing as if someone has a normal job. It's not. And a lot of times normal people would compare it to that. And I guess it is fair. And I hate when people say it's not fair, because it is fair. I think it is fair. And what I mean by fair is, it's like people think it's like, how dare you compare? It's like, yeah, but it's just as fair as you saying, how dare you not compare it to that? So I think I could see a lot of people having issues with this in that regard. Other than that, I really don't understand how anybody... I don't really care, to be honest with you. They have to show up at some point. I don't think anybody... Who cares about this? And of course, probably the media is going to try to make this a big deal when it's not. It's not a big deal at all. Who cares? Honest to God, who cares? Again, they'll have to show up to training camp just like every other team in the league. Everything's going to be okay. Brian Flores clearly, obviously in this article, doesn't seem to care. And I don't think anybody else should really care that much about this. It doesn't really matter. So, after saying that, and again, I'm trying to speculate what people would have a problem with this. And I guess that's the only thing you can really come up with is them comparing it to if I could play football for millions of dollars, of course I would just show up. And people have to show up to stuff because they have to. You know what I mean? And put themselves at risk of obviously getting sick. So I can see people comparing it to that. But anyway, the point is we're moving on to another interesting news story that was more speculative, but at the same time, I'm not really sure. It's kind of a mixture of both. There was an article that came out on Bleacher Report saying that the Dolphins, and some reporter, I can't remember who it was, but you guys can read this on Bleacher Report if you want to, said that the Dolphins have the best opportunity to get Aaron Rodgers if they wanted him. And it's true. And his point is that obviously the Packers don't want to trade Aaron Rodgers to any of the other NFC teams, especially the ones that want him because those are contenders. They would want to trade him to an AFC team. And I know everybody has been hearing about Denver, and that, you know, that seems to be like the best destination for him. But he made a good point that Denver obviously doesn't have near enough and nowhere near the amount of assets that the Dolphins have in terms of draft capital. It's not even close. So, and they're a competitive team. And to be honest with you, we won 10 games last year, and I know Denver beat us because of some learning curves as a rookie quarterback, and, you know, maybe one. If Ryan Fitzpatrick looks to the right instead of the middle, we would have probably won that game. But it doesn't matter. I think we have a better roster than they do. And not only do we have a better roster, but his point was in the article that obviously we have more draft capital and we're an AFC team. And out of all the AFC teams, we have the best things to offer the Packers if he was available for trade. And if the Dolphins are interested, because if you think about it, the only other team that has the amount of draft capital that we have is the Lions, who's in their division, and the Giants have some draft capital, but they're probably not going to want him, and they're still in the NFC, and the Eagles. And the Giants and Lions still don't have the amount of draft capital that we do, and they're in the NFC, and one of them's in their division. And then you look at the Eagles, and they're also in the NFC. So, if they don't want to trade him to an NFC team, just like when they didn't want to trade Brett Favre to an NFC team, they ended up trading him to an AFC team, which was the Jets. This could be a similar situation. It'd be weird if another Packers quarterback was traded to an AFC East team. Obviously, this would be a lot different, though. This team is ready to contend. And if Tua is on it or Aaron Rodgers is on it, it doesn't matter. They're going to the playoffs. And if Aaron Rodgers is on this team, then I would expect, at least in the first 2 years, we would get a Super Bowl. And I don't even think it's close. And especially since Chris is so good at getting talent, and Chris Greer is so good at drafting in the later rounds and getting undrafted talent, and so factor all of those things in, and he's going into it. Not only it's a fantastic roster with a lot of really young talent on it that are on rookie deals. So I don't really care I don't care what happens. But if the Dolphins decided to get Aaron Rodgers, I don't think any of us would be upset about it. And again, to me, that's a Super Bowl championship. Now, if Tua can live up to what I think he is and can be, then I would say we would have a good opportunity to win one in the next 2 or 3 years. Maybe, hopefully, even shorter than that if Tua comes along a little bit quicker. And especially if he has a great second year, then I definitely expect playoffs. And I expect playoffs anyway, especially with the 7 seeds and all that. It doesn't matter. Let me breathe. But anyway, the point is that he makes a great point. I thought it was a great point that if there was any AFC team that had the best chance if they wanted him to get him, it would be the Dolphins. It's true. Obviously it would be, I think, an attractive place to go if you're Aaron Rodgers. I mean, like I said, the roster is really good. It's Miami. You can live out the rest of your career down here. Yeah, I don't see what's not to like. You had a great head coach, great weapons on offense, good offensive line. You don't really have. You have a solid running back, but maybe not like a above average. I would say I think Myles Gaskin, I think we could say is above average. I don't know. He's not Pro Bowl level, but he is above average. So not much to not like. I mean, it would be the best defense he's played with since the 2010 championship team. So, yeah. And he wouldn't have to score 40, 50 points every game to win a game. It would be a match made in heaven. He's throwing to Waddle and Will Fuller on the outside, Devontae Parker, Gesicki. It would be awesome. And Hunter Long, by the way. Oof. I love me some Hunter Long. Hunter Long's going to be good, guys. He really is. I know people don't... I don't know how you guys feel about Hunter Long, but he's going to be a very good player. Definitely, at the very least, he's going to be a starter in the league. And I think he's got an opportunity to be better than that. So let's get into the fan Q&A, where we answer fans' questions. This first question comes from Mark. He says, what do you think of the draft? Did you think we neglected The running back position, will we regret it? What would you have done differently? Again, this is interesting. Because, first of all, I think people lack, let's just look at it this way. In my opinion, this is how I look at it. Najee Harris, clear upgrade over Myles Gaskin. Travis Etienne, I think, is probably an upgrade over Myles Gaskin. I'll give it to you. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of his, I could see why somebody would say that. So I'll give that to you. Everyone else, Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, who else Chuba Hubbard, who else? Trey Sermon. All of those guys are not clear upgrades over Gaskin. Like, what the heck do you... if they were better or at the same level as Gaskin was last year, then it's a good draft pick, right? But the only guys that were clear upgrades in the draft, in my opinion, were Harris and Etienne. Those guys were gone. So, and there was nothing that... And again, this was a report that came out, tried to trade up for Najee Harris. It's not like they didn't try. But you guys got to understand... If you're just drafting someone who might be the same level as Myles Gaskin, is what you would hope for his rookie season. He's not going to become Ezekiel Elliott, okay? None of those guys are going to be that guy. None of them are Alvin Kamara. No one, and again, people forget, Alvin Kamara had a great college career. Like, you could tell that Alvin Kamara was going to be a good player. Like, Michael Carter, Javonte Williams... Like I said, at the very least, they could be just as good as Myles Gaskin or the same player. It's not like you're getting a clear upgrade. So I don't have any problems with what happened in that draft, in my opinion. So my answer to your question, Mark, what do you think of the draft? Did you think they I do not think they neglected it. They wanted Najee Harris. They tried to trade up after they selected Jalen Phillips. It ended up not working out. It is what it is. If the Jaguars didn't pick ETN, then the Dolphins probably get him in the second round. Or maybe the back of the first round. But the Jags wanted to have two running backs. I don't know. But it's just... I don't think it was neglected at all, in my opinion. That's all I really have to say about that. Sorry. Stuffy nose. This next question comes from Jerry. He says, do you think Eric Rowe's time is up now that we picked up McCourty? Absolutely not. Eric Rowe is awesome. His worst game he's ever had as a Dolphin was against the Raiders and against Darren Waller. And that's the one thing he's always been kind of bad at is looking for the ball in a 50, like at a fade situation. Even New England tried to exploit that when we played them in Miami. They tried him a couple times on some of those like isolation routes, and it's like, it was kind of shaky there a couple of times. But other than that, Eric Rowe's pretty dang good at erasing tight ends and doing what we ask him to do. So I think moving on from Eric Rowe would be a huge mistake, and I don't think so. I think Eric Rowe has earned a spot on this defense for at least this year. This next question comes from KC Fanatic. He says, who will our next cut be? Many are saying Jakeem Grant will be next. Yeah, I've heard that, and I think that's probably going to happen. First of all, this is the two biggest reasons why this is going to happen. First of all, he's not better than any other receiver on this roster. Even if Allen Hurns and Albert Wilson are they're better players than him at that position. The second point, how many times did we hear in the draft press conferences that Holland and Waddle can return punts and kicks? Like, multiple times. So, Jakeem Grant is gone. And you know what? No disrespect to Jakeem Grant, but you played really bad last year at receiver, okay? And we're not consistent at all. And, that's pretty much... he's a good special teams player. But other than that, it's just been very disappointing. This next question comes from Jerry. He says, hold on, his nose is going everywhere. He says, would you ever consider having guests on your show every now and then? Maybe you could have people call in. Been watching the show for 3 to 4 years now, and I think it would be a great way to connect with the family we have going on here. Well, first of all, I just thought the guest thing. Maybe we could do fan guests. I think that would be fun. But you see, the thing about fan guests is that not everybody is good at talking for an hour. In terms, like, some people might be nervous. I don't know, but I think that's probably the best route to do it. I mean, we've had offers in the past from pretty big Dolphins YouTubers to do something, and the only reason it hasn't worked out, and I would have to guest on their show because I just don't have the means to do one of those things now. But maybe, I think in the future it definitely will happen for sure. This question comes from Jerry. He says, I remember telling you after the season ended that I thought Bobby's time in Miami was done. It's too bad. I think Bobby is kind of a guy that brings a ton of value, just not in a flashy way. Here's the question. Would you rather have picked up Trayvon Morningwig over Holland? I think he was the best talent at the position, but maybe he didn't fit what the flow was looking for. No, I disagree with you on that. I think Holland is a perfect fit. I think he would have been higher on people's draft boards if he didn't opt out. He's got great ball production. He's a perfect scheme fit. He did everything that we ask our players to do in college. So out of the box, he's going to be able to come in and just do what he did in college and do it at a high level. So, I would agree that I agree with what Flo ended up doing. Not a huge fan of the TCU guys anyway. This question comes from Ethan. He says, if the Dolphins were to go after a free agent running back, which I don't think they will. I'm sorry if you hear the dog in the background. Which I don't think they will. What running back would you want, and which would you want least? As a free agent running back? There's no... I would probably want Le'Veon Bell the most. I think he's got the most game left in him. The weird thing is I looked up Todd Gurley the other day. I was like, how old is Todd Gurley? He's only like 25, 26 years old, which is crazy, dude. Dude, people don't realize Todd Gurley has 80 touchdowns in his career, and he's only 26. That's crazy, dude. That's an insane stat. So I think Le'Veon Bell out of the two. Let me look up how old Le'Veon Bell is. Le'Veon is 29, so again, he's younger too. I think by watching them both play last year, I think Le'Veon has the most football left in him. So I would say Le'Veon, and then Todd would be a second. And then after that, I don't even know who's really available. Maybe there's some trade candidates that the Dolphins like from the Broncos especially. Like, maybe they get Royce Freeman from them, or... because they have so many on their roster right now. Maybe Melvin Gordon is up for... Maybe they want to move on from him, go to more of a power back type deal. I don't know. We'll have to see what ends up happening. But I do think the Dolphins will add a running back in the offseason before the season starts. And I do think it probably is going to be Le'Veon Bell. And if it's not Le'Veon Bell, I think it's going to be someone that they trade for. So to answer your question, Ethan, I think they will go after free agent, yes, and I do think they'll trade, but it will be after they let someone go. Whether it's Jakeem Grant, maybe multiple people like Albert Wilson. I don't know what their contracts look like, but I don't think you can do it with Albert Wilson, but I do think you can do it with Hearns and Grant and save some money and go out and get someone. And again, if you look back on it, Le'Veon Bell, and again, he just wanted a chance to win a ring, and I don't blame him for it. But, I don't know. I think he'd be a great fit in the scheme, and especially with the things that we do thought we're going. I mean, if we're running the New England scheme on passing the football, he's perfect for that. He could be James White in this scheme, and he's a really good receiving back, and that's why Najee Harris would have been awesome to have. But obviously, it didn't work out that way. This next question comes from SM. Sorry guys, this nose thing. It's terrible. He says, when it's all said and done, in my mind, we picked up an extra first-round pick next year after trading back up. Awesome, but we could have stayed at 3, took Pitts, and with our third pick, instead of taking a tight end, we could have taken running back Carter. First, so this is his what if. First pick, Waddle, tight end Long, or Pitts Carter. Okay, so who would I rather have, Pitts Carter or Waddle and Long? I'm going Waddle and Long. I think I definitely would rather have Waddle and Long. I think Hunter Long is a better player than Carter, and I think Waddle is a really good player. So I think, you know what, and I will say it right now, Waddle a better player than Pitts, and I'm saying it. And I know everybody has the overhype with Pitts and all this other stuff that he's going to be the next Calvin Johnson, and maybe that's true. But I'm just saying Waddle is pretty talented as well. So, and again, I've always said this. If you guys go back and watch the previous episodes, and if you do listen along, I've always said Kyle Pitts was overrated. The man is way too overhyped. Okay, and we'll see. I could be completely wrong about this, and I probably am. He's a very talented player. And I'm not saying he's not, but I'm just saying it's a little crazy, and especially with this year, it seemed like a lot of people getting compared to like high level guys, and it's like not everybody's gonna be Deion Sanders. This next question comes from Ahmed. He says, "Do you believe that Waddle?" Excuse me, let me start over. He says, "Do you believe that Waddle was worth the 2 first-round picks? It is clear that they swung and missed on Pitts, but I think, well, I don't know about that. That was just speculation." But we'll continue. He says, "But I think they got stuck at 6 with not being able to trade down. They could have planned similar to New York, stayed at 12 and traded down until they landed Kadarius Toney and kept next year's first rounder. Excuse me. Waddle certainly better perform. He says Waddle's certainly better perform like Tyreek for the price they pay. Oh, you're saying he better perform like Tyreek? Okay. Well." So first, it's not like the Giants situation, because obviously we traded up. So we were never going to trade down. I never believed any of that. Clearly the Dolphins, and again, if the reports are true, they had him as their number 1 receiver on their board. So the pick was always going to be Waddle, even if Jamar Chase dropped there. If that's true. And the Giants never would have traded down if the Eagles didn't take Devontae Smith. So, at the end of the day, I think this is my philosophy. Sometimes you just gotta pick a player, and they picked a player that they really liked, and that was number 1 on their board. And I'm happy I don't think now if Pitts fell there, I don't know what their board looked like. We've not heard any news about how high they had Pitts, but I don't think it ever was for Pitts. I don't think anyone in the NFL thought he was getting past Atlanta, and he probably wasn't getting past Cincinnati either. So, I don't think the plan was ever to get Pitts at 6. And I don't think and again, if they wanted him so bad, they would have stayed at 3. So I think they got what they wanted, and I think now whether you think Waddle is worth everything they did to get him, we'll have to see, and that's obviously remains to be seen. But I think he is. I think he's honestly the most talented receiver on this roster, in my opinion. And he's going to play slot. I think he's going to play slot receiver. And I think he's going to be dominant at that position. He's going to be fun to watch. And him and Will Fuller, I don't even know what the starting lineup is going to look like. Because you have Devontae Parker, Will Fuller, Preston Williams, Jalen Waddle. And Preston, maybe they move Preston inside sometimes. And then maybe they put Waddle outside sometimes. But if Will Fuller wasn't on the team, it would be a clear lineup. It would be Preston and DP on the outside with Waddle inside. And obviously, if you go 4 wide, maybe you throw in someone else in there. But again, there's a lot of talented guys. And again, I think the greatest thing that they did in this offseason was to get a lot of different... everybody has a different attribute that they're really good at. And Waddle's not only is he a great deep threat, but he's also a very good route runner. And he's got great hands, and he's a great slot receiver. So they have a lot of different things they can do on offense now. But I think to answer your question, Ahmed, that I think they actually did what they wanted to do, in my opinion. And not even in my opinion. I mean, the only thing I don't know the thing that we don't know as fans for a fact is how high was Pitts valued. But if we can just look at the situation, clearly he wasn't that high. This next question comes from Jag Pack, and they got a great tight end too, and Hunter Long. So, 18, he says, Skaggs. This question comes from Jag Pack. He says, Skaggs, I know you will either be devastated or absolutely hate Bobby McCain being cut. I mean, no, that's not true. I've never been a huge Bobby McCain fan. Me personally, I don't know why so many people thought he was good. He was definitely better at safety. When he was at corner, he got beat a lot and had very few picks. That's not true. His best football was when he was a slot corner, and it's not even close. When he was an outside corner early in his career, he wasn't very good. But when he moved him inside, he was fantastic. When he moved him to safety, his first 2 years at safety. And when he's played safety in the past, he gave up a lot of busted coverages. When Brian got here, it definitely got less worse. But he was never a good safety. Like he was a good safety when he had to play man coverage, which was what he was good at in the first place when he was a corner. So he never was a true good all-around safety in this scheme. He was good at some aspects of it, but he wasn't good at the whole picture. He never was. Again, he was too small to play that position. Not the most physically gifted guy when it comes to the running game and being able to like shoot through somebody. That's what Minka was so good at. And was just reading and reacting and getting the guy on the ground. Bobby was never that guy. And he was never physical enough to do it either. So again, he was good at some like one aspect of the position, but he was never a good at all the other things you have to do at safety, in my opinion. So and again, I think most of his most of his picks came when he was at slot corner. He had 3 picks at safety, I think. And maybe I'm missing one. But he had a pick. He picked off Jimmy Garoppolo at safety, Brian Hoyer at safety. Who else did he pick? There's one more that I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting one. But most of his picks came from slot corner. Anyway. This next question comes from SM. He says, this narrative that Miami doesn't value the running back position, if true, is the dumbest thing ever. You must have a sound ground attack to keep defenses honest. I'm aware we are in a passing league. To me, it's the Dolphins are afraid to draft a big name call. That's not true. They are not afraid. Again, if the only reason Najee Harris wasn't picked at 18 is because Jalen Phillips was there. And that's what the report said. Now, whether you believe this stuff or not is up to you, but what the beat writers write tends to be sometimes right. And what they were writing is that Najee Harris would have been the pick at 18. Phillips fell there. They had to go with Phillips, which, to be honest with you, in hindsight, being everything, and I love Najee Harris, I would have picked Jalen Phillips too. Even one of my favorite players in the draft, and when you sit down and really think about it, obviously a pass rusher is a huge part of playing defense. For so many different reasons. Not only that, but he's really good in the run game. The point is I disagree with you, Eston. They would have taken a big-time college running back. And again, Etienne, I think, would have been a Dolphin as well if Jacksonville didn't want 2 running backs. So, I mean, and again, here's what I will say. The one thing I will say about the press conference after the draft is, Brian talked about like how this is going to open up running lanes for our running backs and make it easier on our offensive line because it's going to lighten the box. What people don't understand is Jakeem Grant was always not a very good receiver, too small, and he never really could stretch the field because he couldn't separate. He had great speed, but what the heck does it matter when you don't know how to play receiver? And his hands were terrible. It was very inconsistent at that position. So this is going to help us run the football with some of the speed that we added with Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle. And I think something that's really interesting is that he brought up the running game. And I think the Dolphins, and especially with Studsville calling plays in the running game, I think they're going to get someone. I just don't know who it is yet. Hopefully it's Le'Veon, or maybe they get Melvin Gordon to trade or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. Again, there was another rumor that they really wanted Aaron Jones. And, again, I think Le'Veon Bell, even Melvin Gordon, would fit the passing scheme to a T. People like Danny Woodhead, James White, and that New England system were huge parts of that passing game. And I think, Myles Gaskin can do that, by the way. But if you get Le'Veon Bell or Melvin Gordon, one of the best parts of their games is catching the football. And I think if you add one of those two, even Todd Gurley, who maybe isn't the greatest athlete in the world, but he's a good receiving threat. And he was a great receiving threat with the Rams. So any of those guys I think would be great fits in this game. But I disagree with you, Eston, that I think they wanted a running back. But they just didn't get and again, this is the second year in a row where that happened. Last year it happened with Ayuk, where the Dolphins really wanted him, and then obviously I think they ended up having. Obviously, they settled for Igbenogany, and Ayuk could have fixed a lot of issues last year. I mean, in terms of him being he's very similar to he reminds me a little bit of Jarvis, maybe a little bit less physical, but he would have been a good slot receiver. Anyway, the point is, what is the point? The point is that the running backs thing is going to be addressed at some point. I just don't know who it's going to be. I mean, I think it's either going to be a trade or a free agent signing. And I know those are the only two options that are available for the Dolphins right now, so that's pretty good. Thanks, Captain Obvious. But I do think it will be addressed at some point during the offseason. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly do enjoy doing this every week. And I'll see you guys in the next one.